And I do believe we're back. Thank you very much for joining us here on After Dark. I'm a bit of a one for nostalgia myself, and when I was a kid, I used to love those "Where Are They Now" type segments on television or on the radio, and we thought we'd do a few of them here on After Dark. Joining me on the line is Grant McGrath. He'll be very well known to many of you as an announcer on More FM, The Breeze, and Magic. Good evening, Grant McGrath.
G'day, Nick. How you doing?
Hey, great. Thank you very much for joining us this evening.
Thanks for having me.
I'm wondering about your radio career, and I'm thinking that the day it really all changed for you was on the 22nd of February during the earthquake.
Yeah, man, that was a rough day. You know, I turned up for work and turned up a bit early for a meeting. Decided to go. Well, decided but went to voice a couple of ads before the show, and then wham! In this production studio, getting shaken around like a doll. TVs landing on me, and ceiling tiles falling down, and air conditioning falling down, and being on the top floor of 151 Kilmore Street wasn't much fun. But no, the building came through okay, and we all got out okay. And well, yeah, that certainly did change everything, Nick. Most definitely.
Who was on air at the time when the quake hit?
Sue White was on here at the time. Yeah, it was quite poignant. We went back a few months later just to grab a few bits and pieces from the building, and the newspaper was still laid out in the studio. The studio had been gutted for all its gear, but the newspaper from that day was just still open. You know, as if we just basically just walked out. It was really quite weird.
You and Sue White go back a long way, don't you, to More FM, from my memory?
Yes, that's right. Yeah, I was a part-timer at More FM way back in the early days when Sue was on air there, and I actually replaced her when she had her daughter Jazz. Yeah, so we did go back away, yeah.
How many years had you clocked up with radio before you decided to change career?
Wow, a good 22. It was 2014 when I sort of retired from full-time radio. It was August of 2014, and the following April, they invited me back to do weekends on Magic, which was quite lovely. So yeah, enjoyed that for a couple of years, doing the Saturday and Sunday mornings on Magic, which was just a completely different job. Something really good. I appreciate nice way to fade out
Knowing you, I don't think with the radio. What happened next?
Well, when I finished up with radio, I spent, we did a cruise with my Golden Oldies rugby team, and that was wonderful. Had about 9 weeks off, just relaxing and getting into a completely different headspace, and coming to terms with the fact that the full-time radio career was actually over after 22 years. But you started at Mr. Boats, and I ran the parts and accessories showroom there, and honestly, best job I'd ever had. All the radio shifts, the shows, everything. Finally, the best job I ever had was selling boat bits and accessories and boats.
You really enjoyed that job, didn't you?
Oh my goodness me! You know, everyone has a job that a dream job that they just sort of start doing. They develop. It's a passion, and it's not like work at all. Yeah, and that was me.
And of course, you were doing lots of radio promotions from there as well.
Yeah, well, actually, that was it. I sort of sold myself to them as being able to look after their radio advertising and a bit of marketing and things like that. And so, I sort of took those skills along, and we got the place humming. Actually, we had a lot of fun, and I still go there. We still have a wonderful time with the guys, and it's still a great place. And I do, have that association still. I'm very proud to be associated with them. It's a really good crowd.
When you were on radio, did you have your face on the back of a bus or on the side of a building or big billboards? Do people know what you look like?
Yeah, for a while there we had ads running. I think from the Light FM days into the Breeze days, we had ads with our pictures along the bottom of the TV section that came out on a Tuesday in the press. And the bus backs, there was a TV ad, I think, that had our faces on cartoon bodies or something, I think, from memory. But every now and then, and of course there was MC work and stuff you do around town and that sort of thing. But some people really enjoy the MC stuff. Me, I was more of a studio guy. I love being in the studio, being on air. Sue White, for example, loves being out and about and stuff like that, which is cool. But me, I just like being in the studio. That was me.
Yeah, I got asked to MC something once, and I was just horrified. I think it was very lovely of them. It was the Indian Businessmen's Association, but I really didn't think I'd have anything to bring to it, so I declined, and I'm sure they got somebody very good anyway.
Oh, wonderful!
So when you had finished up on the radio, you've gone to Mr. Boats, and were you missing the radio thing, or had you kind of moved on?
Oh well. The funny thing that was, I sort of had prepared myself for the fact that I wasn't going to do any more radio shows, and then that from that August of 2014, but by the April of 2015 they'd invited me to do those weekends on Magic, so I was kind of back into it again, although not live but pre-recorded, but it was still a lot of fun. So I was still doing radio and doing the boat thing as well.
Yeah, and you've got a nice boat yourself. I've seen a photograph of it.
It's an old classic, but yeah, it's a bit of fun. And I'll quite like Panther.
Hey, tell us a bit about your dad's boat over in Akaroa, because that was a lovely craft, wasn't it?
Oh, well, my family have had, the McGraths have had an association with Akaroa going back to the 50s. My grandparents used to have a pub over there, the old Bruce Hotel, and I had a house over there when it was just a sleepy fishing village before it's the popular place it is today. So, needless to say, if you go to Akaroa, you want to blast around in something. And I think back in the 60s, I think my uncle had a signwriting business and ended up getting this wonderful old wooden boat as a payment for something. And my grandfather and him, they just did this thing up. And oh my goodness, what a beautiful old wooden boat it was. It was about 20 feet. Lady Anne, it was called, and it had an old flathead 6-cylinder engine in it, and the woodwork in it was just absolutely spectacular, and everything. It was a very impressive boat on the water, certainly in Akaroa in those days. But yeah, it was we seem to always have a boat in the family somewhere, and I think that's where the passion came from.
So what keeps you busy nowadays?
Well, goodness me, after 2 years at Mr. Boats, a business came up for sale that was too good to turn down, and I'm fixing car interiors these days. I go around car yards and places repairing car and boat interiors, and holes in little seats, worn leather, that sort of thing. So that keeps me busy these days, pretty much.
So is it all leather? It's leather and the synthetics as well that you can do.
Yeah. Dashboards. If there's any holes in dashboards, most dashboards can be repaired. There's a few that can't. We're talking, like the worn leather on an edge of a seat when people get in and out. That tends to wear. Steering wheels tend to fade and look a bit scruffy after a while. The leather wears off. We can recoat that. Synthetics, holes in vinyl. You can weld that with vinyl repair compound.
Because I've seen some of the before and afters because you do stuff on Facebook. And I think, oh my God, how the hell did they do that? Because you've got a big expanse of vinyl and it's got a cigarette burn in it or something. And how do you make it all kind of shiny and new and continuous again?
Yeah, well, you need a heat gun and a bit of vinyl repair compound and a texture pad with the right grain pattern in it, and some colour that you need to make up to match the surface that you're recreating. But funny story, I was restoring a car a few years back, and I needed to get some of this vinyl repair work done, and I couldn't for the life of me find anyone. I couldn't for the life of me figure out how to do this. And so I sort of improvised away, and that was all good and well. Who was to think, a few years later, I'd buy a business that actually did that very same thing that I was looking for. Unbelievable.
And you're also very busy with your new home and landscaping as well now.
No, there's always something to do, Nick, because I'm very tight with money. So the only way, the only way I figured out is the only way to get good things, nice things. If you can't afford to go out and buy them, you actually make them yourself. It's been the same with car restoration. If I wanted a good car, I'd have to sort of build one from the ground up. And it's the same with a house too. Buy a house relatively cheap. In this case, a house that wasn't really finished, and finish it off. So it keeps me busy. That's the downside.
Hey, Grant, thank you very much for joining us tonight on After Dark. It's been a pleasure to speak with you, and
my pleasure,
all the best of luck with the business there.
Thank you very much. Cheers.
Cheers, Grant. Right. Right, we're going to have a little bit more nostalgia now here on After Dark. By the way, you can call in on 027 257 9672 if you'd like to contribute to the programme this evening or in future shows. Now, a legend on the Christchurch music scene is Charlie Jemmett. He had CJ's Music Store, and he's retired from that now. And I'm going to get him on the line very shortly and have a wee chat to him. Just one moment.